Okay guys, in this video I'm going to be changing the motherboard in this old Dell Optiplex 7020. This used to be my second stream machine, but as you noticed on previous videos, if you watch them, the BIOS is on the way out on it, and all I could ever use it on was Nabara, and I've fallen out of love with Nabara, so let's get on with this. So initially, just need to lift off the side panel and then literally just start opening up all the getting all these cables off. System speaker. Get this completely out of there. This little secondary fan is a little bit annoying. Well, for the back fan anyway. Look at different angles to see if you can get it to release. There we go, finally. Okay, so that's all the cables out. Now from what I can see, there is 2, 4, 8 screws to remove, so I can then get the motherboard completely out. Don't know what that's for either. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew all these now and take the motherboard out. Now I'm going to need the processor and the processor fan on this machine to go into the new motherboard, because it's just literally a motherboard change. The screws on this board seem to be in a little bit easier place to actually get into, especially this one down here. So I don't think any other motherboard would fit in this case without having to tape up certain standoffs and have missing screws. Oh, every time I look, I'm missing different spots to remove. Different cables, sorry. There's a little one just down at the back by the RAM here, which is another awkward one. That's that out. Just 2 more screws now, I think. It should pop out. I think this should be the last one now. Yep, that's the motherboard released. That was a little cable, that was the one that you couldn't see me taking out, and the fan, which is quite awkward as well. Now I'm going to move this case out the way, and I'll be back with you once I've done that. Now I've moved the case out of the way. Next plan is, or next thing to do is to remove the cooler and fan off of this board. So I need the motherboard and this cooler and fan for the new motherboard. So it's 4 screws on this one, I think. Yes, it looks that way. Now I'm extracting these screws in like a cross formation to try and save any sort of tension on the processor itself. Not awkward is this one. It's not completely removed. I don't think this one's fully out yet. I find it a little awkward because the screwdriver I'm using has a little ridge on it, and I can't seem to get into one of the screws. Ah, there we go. Now, I think that should be... No, it's still holding on. There we go. Finally got that out. And this thermal paste is actually quite dry. So maybe that's why the BIOS failed. Might have been overheating and I wasn't realising it. Oh, and that might be the reason why the BIOS wasn't showing up in the first place. Anyway, I've got a new motherboard now, so it's not a major issue. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean all this fan, heatsink and processor from the old thermal paste. So I need to go get some tissue, so I'll go grab that now. Right, okay, so I've grabbed some tissue and I'm just going to go ahead and clean up all this thermal paste. You're supposed to use some alcohol isopropylene, but I've actually run out of that, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do this time. But it is still coming off at least. Back of my nails seems to suffice. Now before, there we go, I flip it out, I'm going to get all the hard bits out the way and wipe the table. And now, just going to clean this lot off as well, but I'm just going to do that off the camera. Now, both the CPU and the CPU cooler have been cleaned of the old thermal paste. I'm going to go ahead now and remove this CPU. So it's relatively simple. Clip that down and it just all flips up over. So just make sure I'm getting this, grab it right. Ooh, there we go. And that's the CPU out. This is one of those where it doesn't have pins as such, just pads on the back of it. Not like the old Pentium stuff and AMD stuff which had pins. It's all changed now onto motherboard manufacturers. So I'm going to pop this back in here without the pins. And now time for the other motherboard to be built up. As you can see, it's an identical board. I know a viewer of mine was worried that it possibly might not work because there are variations in each system, even though it's the same name. But this looks like it's identical from what I can see, so hopefully it should be fine. So first things first is to pop the CPU back in. Now with these, if you look on, I'm trying to get a good angle on this. The light's not particularly good in this. Now there we go. If you look there, it's a little triangle on the corner of the CPU where my finger is, and that has to correspond with a little triangle that's on the motherboard itself. So just basically, there's also a couple of grooves at the side here that will help align it. So basically this will just go straight in over the top like that. That flips up, make sure it goes underneath this screw, and when you flip this over it locks it in place. That's it, simple as that for a CPU installation. Now I need to re-thermal paste the CPU before I put the cooler back on. So I'm going to pop some of that on now. I use Arctic MX6 usually because it's a little bit gloopier rather than being really runny when I try and thermal paste it. Just personal preference on what you want to use. So I'm just going to add something like a pea size in the middle. And that should be enough. Now I'm going to get a load of comments saying, oh, you've done that wrong. As long as it spreads out to the entire face on the CPU, it doesn't really make much difference. So now just got to kind of line these screws back up, which there we go, and tighten it on. Now you don't do it fully, just get them all in line first. Because you can over tighten one side and it will literally put a lot of pressure on the CPU and it can break it or damage the board. So you just kind of do it bit at a time till it feels right, and kind of do it in a star pattern or a cross pattern till it feels like it's not going to be moving anywhere. So there we go, that one's locked now, which was a nice thing because they usually do lock in. That locked in now. That's locked. You don't need to over tighten them once you hit the part where it locks in, because later on when it comes to servicing it'll be a pain in the backside to actually take it out. Right, now that's done. I have some new RAM for it to go in. It's only 8GB of RAM. Old RAM again, and they don't need to be going into the slots 1 and 2 because it's a 4-slot board. That will give dual channel speeds, which will help improve it, even though it's old RAM. Now, when you install the RAM, you've got to make sure there's a click on either side, and that indicates it's been properly installed. And that's that. Now I'm going to re-add this fan, CPU fan, which is literally right next to it. Now this is ready to go back into the case, and to be everything to be connected back up. So I'm going to pop this to one side and bring the case back up. Right, okay, now it's just basically putting this new motherboard in, so it's just a reverse of what I've just done. So, once we can get just make sure all the cables are out of the way when you're trying to slip this in. Now, a good thing about just a straight motherboard swap of the same type is the I/O shield doesn't need to be changed. None of the cabling needs to be adapted. So I'm just going to go ahead and start connecting everything up. Yes, I think that's the audio ports, if I'm not mistaken, could be wrong. USB 3. CPU pack. Oh, might help actually screw it in. I forgot that little one, so let's get on with that. Again, I'm going to do my usual tip of the day and insert all screws before you fully tighten them, and that way it should be easier to fit, like I say should. I still need to get a better screwdriver with a magnet on it, so I can just basically add the screws to the end of the screwdriver and put them in without having to mess about. Well, this kind of does it, but I don't trust it. One more screw. Right, now all the screws are actually into the board. I can tighten them up. Again, not overly tightening them up so you don't damage the board. Right, now that's the motherboard actually in and not going to move around too much, I can now start connecting the rest of the cables up, like the power connector. Now I don't know what this cable's for. It's something for the front I/O. So this one could be the audio, I'm not sure, and that could be the other one could be in the USB 2 ports. So that's that in. There's a rear, the CPU pin to go in, and finally the rear fan. And that is, oh no, I forgot something. I have a SATA power connector because it's a Dell, old Dell Optiplex. So it's the power for the SATAs runs separately through into the motherboard and back out of the motherboard. Quite a weird way of doing things, but I'm going to add one SSD, SATA drive into the motherboard, and I'm going to add the 500 gig graphics card, motherboard. Oh my god, get me words right. Hard drive, just for additional storage, because I think I might just sell this on as just to recoup a little bit of money, because I'm not actually needing this PC for anything. So I'm going to add another cable for that there. Add, so that's the data connection, and now finally I'm going to add the the power section, and that will just rest there for now. I will screw them down properly later on. Once I take the front panel off, I can screw it to the top side here, or I may just get some double-sided tape and stick them down properly that way, like I did with the 9020 that you didn't see on screen. Now I'm wanting to add a graphics card, which you will remember this one. Actually, before I add the graphics card, I have this pin sensor to pop back in. This just alerts the motherboard if you have the side panel off in BIOS or not. And then the audio speaker, may as well just pop that in. I might be able to clip that somewhere. And then there was also this weird little thing. Now, where was that connected? I can't remember. Well, I've got a feeling it's at the front somewhere. But no, maybe not. Oh bugger, I can't remember where that was. Don't think it's particularly important. I had a feeling it was down here somewhere. Ah, I've found it. It's hiding under the USB 2 connections. So I might have to remove that first to get that out of the way, so I can fit this in properly, because it's quite a tight fitting. Let's see which way around it goes. I think it's that way. Making things a bit awkward. There we go. That's in now properly. And now I'll fit the USB 2 front I/O back up. I think it's front I/O anyway. Which it doesn't want to seem to do all of a sudden. For God's sake. There we go. Sometimes just stepping away for a couple of seconds and going back in helps out. Right, now back to the graphics card. Seen this one before. I'm wanting to sell this as a light gaming machine because it will go a little bit quicker. So that gets popped in there like that. Now I'm going to put one of these back in. I am missing the fourth one, but that's not a major issue with that. Putting a graphics card in, leaving a bit of a gap isn't a problem because it'll help with a little bit of airflow. So that's that in like that. With PCIs, you've got to make sure they're clipping as well, because there's a little clip there which locks it in place so the actual graphics card should work properly. And finally, I have these adapters to fit in to make the graphics card actually work. So these run off of SATA powers. So we just pick these two up, get it the right way round, and just connect it on. Same with the other one. And then these connect up into the top of that. So two 6-pin connectors on this machine. Oh well, this graphics card. And that is literally about it, apart from securing the hard drives properly. Everything's back together and now ready for a test boot after I've put the panel back on. So right now I'm just about to do a boot test. As soon as I plugged it in, it went onto this screen. I didn't see if the Dell logo came up, but with this popping up, it's already looking like the BIOS is working and it's going to be fine. So I am literally going to go F2, takes me into the BIOS. Just going to load setup defaults. Actually no, I'm not going to change the video part to the primary display to, actually I'll leave it auto because as I'm going to sell this. Somebody may be changing the configuration later on, so I'm just going to leave it as the default settings. So you can actually move the mouse, it'd be easy. So I'll just hit the little upload defaults, do OK, and exit, and let's see if the Dell BIOS logo comes up. Yes, it does straight away. So everything's working perfectly fine, it seems. I should have checked memory whilst I was in the BIOS. There's just no boot device, so I've just literally got to install an operating system into it now, and that is it. Unless I can go into the BIOS itself and change the boot menus that way, but I think I'm just going to, rather than try and load Nubara on it, I'm just going to install a version of Windows 10 on it, ready for sale. Okay, this is just going to be a quick install of Windows 10. Will it do like that? Ah, so Nubara Linux is going to come up and boot up, but it just wasn't popping up on the BIOS version. But yeah, I'm still going to do Windows 10 install on it. It will make it more feasible to sell. I could even do a dodgy Windows 11 version. The sound's working, everything's all up and running. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. So I'm just now going to do a reboot now and start going through a Windows install. Right, and there we are. Windows 10 is installed fine. Created a local account on Windows 10. So now ready to be ready to be put on eBay, just to get sell on, try and recoup some money. Probably recoup everything that I've lost, to be fair. But yep, there we go. I think that's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much.